I've long wanted to make a video covering this topic, the question being, do choices matter in the Dragon Age franchise? Of course, choices matter, or choice matters is, or has been rather, the hallmark statement of BioWare for seemingly eons now, right? It's a motto. Choices matter. Choose A or B. Big difference in the outcome. And having played through all three of the Dragon Age franchise series now, I think we can all objectively claim that choices do not matter. But I suppose there's a little bit of confusion there, because choices matter is a question of interpretation, I suppose, on some level. What do I mean by this? In Dragon Age Inquisition, we see a lot of the choices that we had made in previous games come to light in the form of different character appearances. These, however, are nothing more than references. If you save Loghain during Dragon Age Origins and make him a warden and he doesn't die killing the archdemon, you meet him again. I very much enjoy his voice actor. He's got an ominous grit to him, and his dialogue and discussion is more interesting than Alistair's, but essentially the same thing, more or less. There are differences in lines, it's a different voice actor. It's not as if your choice matters immensely. It's not as if a Loghain is a completely different experience from an Alistair, or for that matter, from the other Grey Warden whose name escapes me at the moment. Stroud, yes. And I haven't even experienced Stroud yet, but I've seen the Let's Plays or the YouTube videos. There's not a huge, it doesn't really matter whether you choose A, B, or C. Stroud, Alistair, Loghain, it's all the same at the end of the day. They all happen to be friends with Hawke, although that's never really explained. Stroud is plausible because of his involvement with the Warden's brother and or sister, and they meet up during Dragon Age 2. I suppose you could spin a story of Corypheus and coming in contact with Loghain or Alistair, I'm not sure. But that's an example of reference, right? So you have references to characters, character appearances. Whether or not that's a question, a matter of choices matter or not, to my mind, it's not. Your choice doesn't matter. It doesn't have a large differentiated impact on the outcome of the game. You just see a different character who says slightly different things, but the outcome is not very different. What are some other examples? Or rather famously, you can kill Liliana as she objects to you poisoning the Sacred Ashes or destroying them in the Temple of Sacred Ashes in Dragon Age Origins. Of course they had to retcon that. In fact, you can have a dialogue with Liliana, and she says the following: "Oh, I know the Warden killed me, but Andraste raised me from the dead. The Maker raised me from the dead. I know I was dead," and blah, blah, blah. Look, BioWare, if you don't want someone killed, you could have just had her leave instead, and you don't have to come up with an odd retcon to make the situation somehow fit. Liliana survives no matter what. Oh, wait, she was killed and resurrected. That makes a lot of sense. That choice ultimately didn't matter because it had no outcome apart from a reference, right? Yes, in Dragon Age Origins, you shouldn't be talking about the hero Ferelden because he's not really a hero. He killed me, and then the Maker resurrected me. Another example, the Dagna thing. The Dagna is an Arcanist thing, to me, is just mysterious. People have come up with every justification under the sun, but the reality is it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense unless you're able to convince her father, that is Dagna from Orzammar, that it's worthwhile to go to the Circle to study magic, that she becomes an Arcanist. It doesn't really matter. Instead, whether you choose to convince her to stay with her father, to become a blacksmith, to have a family or marry or whatever, her becoming an Arcanist, despite that, yeah, you can come up with a story, right? You can say, oh, in fact, she'll tell you that I had to, fight tooth and nail and blah, 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 in the case of the Warden convincing her to stay. But this is still an instance of choice not mattering. You intervened, you chose to convince her to stay with her father and become a blacksmith. Instead, she goes to study in the Circle anyway to become an Arcanist. Choice didn't matter. It's a little example, a small example, and I like Dagna as a character, more or less, but nonetheless, it's an example of BioWare indicating that choices do not matter. What you instead get a reference. oh, the warden did XYZ when he was in Orzammar and either convinced my father to let me study or convinced me to stay, but I disobeyed my father and went anyway. Hawk. Supporting the Templars, the Magus, it has some dialogue differentials, I guess. For example, the Seeker Pentagast, Cassandra will say, well, I don't even know if Hawk would have supported me because she supported the Mage Rebellion. Okay, but no real difference in the outcome, right? And perhaps it's too early to tell, but in whether you choose the Magus or Templars for the first quote-unquote plot critical mission, it doesn't really matter because the outcome is the same, except you fight different enemies. Okay, I guess there are some differences in the enemies further on, Samson versus the mage. Okay, there wasn't a huge difference there, although it's too early to tell. But we can tell from Origins and Dragon Age 2 that choices matter not so much. I haven't seen a single reference to someone other than Larius with respects to the Red Lyrium debacle vis-a-vis Bianca, because you can choose the mage option, I don't recall her name, instead of Larius, and I just see Larius come up. I think BioWare would do well to drop the idea that choices matter, or at least their proclamation, their motto. Choices clearly don't matter unless you believe that mere references to past events and cameos is an example and a proof of choices matter in the game. I think I'm not the only one who feels this way. Choices didn't really matter a whole lot. In addition to that, Dragon Age Keep, I know it's a valiant attempt at making something new work, is bugged. Several instances I've observed where I chose in the Keep that the God Baby was had with Alistair instead of the Warden, end up with Morgan is together with the Warden and they have the kid together and they love each other and blah, blah, blah. That's not how choice matters is supposed to work. It's not even a case of cameo or reference. So what we've seen really in Dragon Age Inquisition moving from Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2 is a question of, or a thing of, lots of references, lots of cameos, but it doesn't really matter. I would admit it's too early to tell with Dragon Age Inquisition what choices you've made in that game will have which impact on the forthcoming titles or DLC. It's not really clear. But there's a lot of potential, obviously, which divine you choose. I mean, they're all radically different from each other, all three potential divines. And if BioWare didn't take advantage of that in different outcomes, then it would be pretty sad. Of course, I share this is a minority view. Most people, particularly people on the BSN, I was reading a post, just lap up everything BioWare does, and they have no critical eye whatsoever. And their dream is fulfilled, okay, because they got their romances and they got to see Dorian's ass or whatever, or Cullen half naked. But some of us care about the things that BioWare claims, and choices matter is not one of them, unless you consider mere reference and cameo an indication of choices mattering. That is not an indication to me, but this is clearly a minority view. So, in that vein, thanks for watching, as always, and I shall see you soon for some more commentary, companion or otherwise. Everyone take care and enjoy your holidays, even though I myself have never partaken and do not partake of the holidays. Bye-bye.